Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giribhara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giribhara Dhari Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Rathamadhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Rathamadhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantharashiman Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh glory to the assembled devotees. Oh glory to the assembled devotees. Oh glory to the assembled devotees. Oh glory to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 59, the killing of the demon Naraka Asura, text 6 to 9, 6 to 8. Text number 6. Panchajanya dvanim srutva juganta sanibishanam murasajana uttastau daitya pancha sirajalat Panchajanya dvanin shrutva jugantasa nibishanam murasajana uttastau daitya pancha sirajalat. Panchajanya Dvanin Shrutva Juganta Shanibhishanam Murasajana Uttastau Daitya Pancha Sira Jalat. Christian. Panchajanya Dvanin Shrutva Juganta Shanibhishanam Murasajana Uttastau Daitya Pancha Sira Jalat. Panchajanya Sut Juganta Shanibhishanam Murasajana Uttastau Daitya Pancha Sira Jalat. Panchajanya Dvanin Shrutva Juganta Shanibhishanam Murasajana Uttastau Daitya Pancha Shira Jalat. Panchajanya of Panchajanya, Lord Krishna's conch shell. Dhvanim, the vibration. Shrutva, hearing. Juga, the universal era. Anta, at the end. Asani, like the sound of lighting. Bhishanam, terrifying. Muraha, mura. Sajanaha, sleeping. Utashtau, stood up. Daityaha, the demon. Panchashiraha, five-headed. Jalad, from water. Of the moat surrounded the fortress. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The five-headed demon Mura, who slept at the bottom of the city's moat, awoke and rose up out of the water when he heard the vibration of Lord Krishna's Panchajanya conch shell, a sound as terrifying as the thunder at the end of the cosmic age. Text number 7. Trishulan udamyasu durnirikshano jugantasur janalatro chir ulbana grasham trilokin iva panchabir mukhair abhyadrabat tarksha shutan jatoraga, shining with the blinding, terrible effulgence of the sun's fire at the end of the millennium. Mura seems to be swallowing up the three words with his five mouths. He lifted up his trident and fell upon Garuda, the son of Tarksha, like attacking a snake. Text number 8. Avidya shulam tarasagurut mate nirasya bhaktrair bidanat sapanchabhi Soradasi Sarvadishom Paramaham Apurajam Andakatahan Abrinot. Translation: Mura whirled his trident and then hurled it fiercely at Garuda, roaring from all five mouths. The sound filled the earth and the sky, all directions, and the limits of outer space until reverberated against the very shell of the universe. Wow, that's for today, right? Omayana timirandasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshur ummilitam yena tasmai Sri Guru Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Bhutale Shrimate Rompa Swami Iti Namne. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarine. Vanchakalpatarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. In the beginning of this age of Kali, the great sages of the world gathered together to counteract the effects of the age of Kali in mankind. They could oversee, or they were able to see into the future and understand the consequences of the age of Kali that will have, in the world. And because of that, they wanted to do this sacrifice. It was a long sacrifice, 1,000-year sacrifice. So it was going to be quite an effort to counteract. And in that great meeting that took place in this very special place in India called Naimishadanya, it's a place that is somewhere in the central part of India, very close to the kingdom of Lord Ramachandra, the kingdom of Ayodhya, which today we're celebrating the appearance day of Lord Ramachandra, Ram Navami. And this place is very special because, sorry, I'm getting a little sick. Um, this place is very special because it's considered that is the hub of the wheel of the whole universe. So if you look at the universe as a huge wheel, then at the axis, at the center of the wheel, there is this hub in which you place the axis of the vehicle, and then the wheel can. So it's at the center, right at the center. So it's considered a very powerful place for sacrifices in the universe, and right at the center there's in when you visit this place, I have the opportunity to visit, there is a lake, and this lake is understood to is bottomless. And in fact, it is explained that there has been studies, like scientifically, how's it called, geological or something like that, um, process to try to find the bottom of that lake, and they couldn't find. That's what we heard. But nevertheless, the sages gathered there, and they place the most senior, not necessarily the most senior, but the one that was acknowledged to be the best of all the sages at that time. His name was Sutta Goswami, and he was present. Why he was so special? Because Sutta was the son of one of the main disciples of um, Vyasadeva. His name was Ramaharshan Sutta, his father. Vyasadeva had many disciples. When he divided the Vedas, he placed a particular Veda, a particular part of the Vedas. I mean, it was so vast, the knowledge of the Vedas, that to being able to disseminate the knowledge of the Vedas, he had to compartmentalize uh, the different sessions and give it to a particular personality to be able to teach it. So to Ramaharshan Sutta, he gave the Puranas, which is the stories, the different, in the Vedas, the knowledge of the Vedas is disseminated to stories. And an example of the Puranas is the Bhagavad Purana, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. And we know that Ramaharshan Sutta, somehow or other, um, became afflicted by pride, and he failed to offer respect to Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram finished him with a kushagrash. He took a kushagrash and plucked him, and he was dead, done. So he was punished by Lord Balaram. Now, Sutta Goswami uh, being the son of Ramaharshan Sutta, was a very important, powerful sage. And he was present during the time in which Sukadev Goswami narrated the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. So he heard the whole thing. And the sages of Naimi Sharanya, knowing that, he asked them to please narrate the, the pastimes of the Lord. It was established that even the purpose that Vyasadeva wanted to fulfill by compiling the Vedas, he himself felt that this is not right. There's something wrong. There's something missing that was not going to allow him to fulfill the purpose of the effort that he was taking to compile the Vedas. The effort that we wanted, the purpose was that also himself, just as the sages of Naimisharanya were able to foresee the effects of Kali Yuga, so Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is described as Trikalagya, who is able to see into the future. He's able to actually understand past, present, and future. Tri means tree, and Tri, so means tree. Kalagya, Kala means times, and Gya means to know the three different times, past, present, and future. So he was able to see, and because of that, he understood that he have to give, to preserve the knowledge of the Vedas, he have to put it in written form. And so he compiled the Vedas, vast literatures, and incredible tasks that actually can only be performed by the Lord himself or a living entity that becomes fully empowered with the potencies of the Lord. So, but Vyasadeva could understand this is not going to do it. People are not going to be able to overcome the influence of Kali with what he has given, which is the full Vedas. So there was something missing, and his spiritual master, Narada Muni, helped him come to the understanding that if you give the Vedas, but the Vedas itself has a purpose. And if you don't make, it's so much information that is there in the Vedas, and it covers so many levels of understandings, and is directed to so many levels of consciousness, that there are so many different type of recommendations according to those levels of consciousness, that it becomes very confusing. It's too broad. And for the people of Kali Yuga, it was going to be impossible to have the full picture. So unless he provides a very clear, simple uh, exposition of the purpose of the Vedas, which Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of the Vedas is to know him. Then everything will fail. So Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam after the instructions of Narada Muni, in which exclusively he will give this knowledge of Krishna consciousness that exclude in the very beginning is say that anything that is mixed with um, some external type of purposes that have to do with this material world, all that mixed type of presentation that is part of the Vedas, anything that is not pure devotion to Krishna is excluded. So he presented the Bhagavatam, or he compiled the Bhagavatam. That same Bhagavatam he instructed, or he gave to his son, Vyasadev's son, Sukadev Goswami. And Sukadev Goswami narrated the Bhagavatam in the presence of all sages in the universe to Maharaj Pariksit. Sutta was present in there. So he heard that narration, and when the sages uh, put him in the seat of the head of that whole sacrifice, they asked several questions, 6 questions in total. And among those questions was that, you know the purpose, O great Brahmana Sutta, you know the purpose why Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, came into this world and performed these amazing pastimes. So we like to hear. We like to hear about his pastimes. We like to hear about his different expansions and incarnations in the world, which are so famous and so vast, so unlimited, not only in quantity but also in quality and variegateness and wonderful. We're never tired of hearing about it. And when you hear about these pastimes, those are the means of purification, of purifying yourself. So Srila Sutta Goswami goes on and explaining the different pastimes of the Lord Krishna, and also his different pastimes in terms of this material world that are manifested in different um, avatars of the Lord. And those avatars are described as there are different divisions of avatars, Sutta Goswami explains, and among them there's the Lila avatars and there's the Yuga avatars. There's actually six of them in total. Lila avatars are like those over there that are called of there are many, but 10 of them are very, very prominent. They're called the dasa avatars. And then there's the Yuga avatars, that there's four Yugas, and there's the avatar or the descent of the Lord, which establishes the principles of religions of the particular Yuga. And then there is the Purusha avatars, that are three of them, and they're manifestations of Lord Vishnu that have to do with the creation of the material world. And they control the whole affairs of the material world. Purusha means controller. So those three are Karunadakshay Vishnu, who is the gigantic manifestation of Lord Vishnu that lies in this ocean of uh, Karuna means causal ocean. The causal ocean is a place between the spiritual world and the material world. It's a space like that. Still part of the spiritual world, the spiritual realm, but is right by the limit. And the Lord is submerged into the waters, causal waters. And then as he breathes out, bubbles comes, and each bubble becomes a universe. And then he enters each of those bubbles, he expands himself into this Garbha Dakshay Vishnu. So Garbha means yeah, is entering into, it's like a, it's actually like a womb, yes. And when he enters, then he feels that half of that bubble universe with his own perspiration. So from his body, this water comes, fill half, and he lies that there with the manifestation of Shesha as his bed, and from his navel comes Lord Brahma, the first created being. And then the universe becomes manifested, all the planets, everything gets, created by, engineered by Lord Brahma. Then he spans into Shirodakshay Vishnu, which is the super soul. He enters into each atom and each in the heart of each living entity. So the Lord have all these manifestations. Among these manifestations, uh, there are Lord Ramachandra, which we're celebrating today, the appearance. And Lord Ramachandra, along with all the Leela avatars, they're considered expansions of the Lord. Now, traditionally, it is understood by most, or by a good quantity of Vaishnavas in the world, that all these different avatars are expansions of Lord Vishnu. And indeed they are, because it's through Lord Vishnu, to that Purusha avatar, that the different manifestations of the Lord enters into this world. Lord Vishnu is a controller of the material creation. Now, in the Bhagavatam, Srila Sutta Goswami, discussing with the sages of the Mishranya, he established that here's all the different incarnations of the Lord, but all these incarnations are either expansions or expansion of the expansions of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the original. Ete chamsa kalapunsa Krishna stu Bhagavad. So he uses this word kal, chamsa, amsa, and kala. Amsa and kala. Amsa is when Krishna first expands. So he first expands into Lord Balaram. And from Lord Balaram, then all these different expansions take place, all the way to Lord Vishnu. And they're called Kala, the expansion of the expansion. Kala. Lord Brahma later, when he had the full vision, he was able to understand, he was able to express that uh, that incarnations like Lord Ramachandra are, he described it also as Kala, saying Brahmadi Murtisu Kala Niyamenatishta. So that, in his Govindam Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who has many, many wonderful incarnations or avatars, like Rama and Nrsimha. So it is explained that Krishna is a source, is the avatar, is a Swayam Bhagavan, is the original personality of Godhead. So his pastimes are so wonderful, the pastimes of the Lord. And he performed those pastimes to, to attract the hearts of the people. And when he comes into the world to perform those pastimes, he has many, many purposes. But the main purpose is to uh, bring people to his lotus feet, conditioned souls to his lotus feet. So the performance of his pastimes are very extraordinary. But when it comes to Krishna, it's incredible, extraordinary. I mean, it's everything is just is um, is quite amazing in one sense, and in one sense, it's very bewildering too, and very mysterious. When you hear the pastimes of other avatars of Lord Krishna, like there's some extraordinary feats, each one of them has, this amazing narrative in which the full displays of the potencies of the Lord are in place. Where he becomes Lord Baraha is this powerful boar. And so there's something so mystical and powerful and so full of awe and reverence that you cannot do anything but understand that this is a personality of Godhead. And it's very, very clear. And so many of the different incarnations are like that. But Krishna becomes especially bewildering because Krishna displays this these human-like pastimes. Lord Ramachandra also, but Lord Ramachandra displays, uh, uh, you know, his opulence are displayed throughout because he's representing a king. But Krishna appears in this world and performs pastimes as a cowherd boy. Now, when he starts his pastimes on Dwarka, now he's manifesting his opulences. The bewildering part when he's manifesting his opulences, and in the case of Lord Ramachandra, we also see that that takes place, is that although these opulence are fully manifested, people still at times over and over fail to recognize Krishna's position. And in this pastime, we see that how it takes place. First of all, how extraordinary is that um, we see this character, um, Narakasura. Narakasura was the son of Lord Varaha, the supreme personality of Godhead, and his mother was Bhumi, wife of Lord Varaha, Bhumi, who is an expansion of the Bhu Devi, one of the main internal potencies of Lord Vishnu. So here's someone who is directly connected to the personality of Godhead. And even with that position, because of bad association, it is explained, and become overwhelmed by false ego and by demoniac propensities, he became a demon, a very, very dangerous and terrible demon. It is explained that the one who spoiled him was this demon called Banasura. Banasura. And who was Banasura? He was the son of Bali Maharaj, one of the great celebrated devotees of Lord Vishnu. And Bali Maharaj was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, one of the most celebrated. So, this lineage that is there. And even then, you can fall prey or fall a victim of these demoniac propensities. So there's no assurance. And then we see, we're going to hear in this passage how Indra, although when he finds himself in the problem, into the trouble, because what happened is that Narakasura, we heard, became so powerful that he was doing whatever he wanted in the whole universe and was harassing the demigods. And he was basically coming to the region of the demigods and causing a huge amount of disturbance. He stole several important items, but the most humiliating one is the queen mother of the whole region of the demigods Aditi, he just went and took the earrings, which was this, you know, um, how you say this, this special mystical earrings that was is a symbol of of her position, and this fellow stole them. So it was a great insult, and on the top of that, he's also stole some uh, a playground for the demigods that was full of jewels and things like that. And he stole also a very special umbrella that was a symbol for Lord Varuna, and like that, some different items that were very insulting. And the demigods could not do anything about it. So Indra went to Krishna in Dwarka, understanding Krishna's position. And Krishna immediately say he will take care of that. He will kill this Narakasura. So he summoned Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu. So it's obvious, you don't, unless you're Vishnu, you cannot ride on Garuda. So it is clear of Krishna's position. Another um, very bewildering thing is that Krishna took Satyabhama with him, and appears externally in the narration that Krishna is being sort of, uh, the word that is used is henpecked. Is being sort of influenced by Satyabhama, the queen. And one of the reasons was that Satyabhama was envious of Rukmini because Rukmini received from Narada a parijata flower. And she had this sort of competition with Rukmini. So she wanted not just a flower like her, this flower, parijata, only grows in the heavenly planets. It's a mystical tree. Um, Krishna saying, okay, I will not, she didn't want just a flower. She wanted the tree, the full tree. So Krishna said, okay, I get it for you. So part of the trip of taking her alone, I mean, externally, was that after Krishna kills this demon and take all these items, he will go to the planet of the demigods, and there he will take the tree. So Krishna, influenced by his wife. But no, it's all orchestrated by Krishna's, Lila Shakti. Because Indra himself have to be again corrected. Because although he's understanding Krishna's position, he's taking shelter of Krishna, he also, as we're going to hear later in the pastime, because when Krishna took that parijata tree, his wife Sati was very upset. And he told him, you know, how you allowing that? And Indra became upset and went to challenge Krishna. So he fought Krishna. Although Krishna, he can see is Lord Vishnu, and everything belongs. Indra is a devotee who takes shelter of Krishna, and as one of the main administrators of the universe, he understands. He have knowledge that everything belongs to Lord Vishnu. This Ishavasya principle is something that all demigods understand. Who is the controller? Who is the supreme controller? And even then, they become bewildered. So, this bewildering potency of this material world is something that is not something light. It's not something that is at our level here, condition, like regular people, like most of us, that we have to deal with our material nature, and we become forgetful and bewildered at times. But the fact is that this is a very, very powerful potency that even bewilders not only common people, but actually great demigods and sages. Even when Krishna is right in front of them, performing his powerful pastimes that is obviously only can be performed by Lord Vishnu. And, and they understand that and even become bewildered. So if that's the case, what it is for us to learn from that? We have to be very mindful of that powerful energy, and we can be complacent. At any time, uh, we can become victimized. And it is said that the reason you become victimized is because of pride. Because the moment, and like in this case, you have all these different characters that are quite connected to the personality of Godhead in service of directly connected, like Narakasura was the son of Lord Baraha, and his mother was a demigoddess that is direct expansion of the internal potency of the Lord. So even with that association, you can become bewildered if you get overcome by pride, by false ego. In the case of Indra, the position of great opulence and control that he has as a king of the heavens at time victimize him. So he becomes bewildered by pride, and it comes over and over. So if we gain any type of acknowledgement or any type of control, even a little control that we may get by our sincere service as devotees, our sincere desire, we serve, and it becomes we start to gain some pride about our achievement, then we're in danger to become bewildered. And it happens. It happens, like we say, even to great demigods. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva says when he prays Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he says, Tene Brahma Adikavaye Muhyanti. Muhyanti is bewildered. Ya Surajaha. That even great sages and demigods becomes bewildered by Krishna's potencies. Bewildered like, Teyo Barimidam Nirasta Kuhakam. Like one will see a mirage. One will see water in land or land in water. When we see a mirage, so we become bewildered. So this is the case of Krishna's extraordinary pastime. So in this case, it's quite something that Krishna is manifesting and displaying his full opulence, riding Garuda, alone with his internal potency, Satyabhama. We hear how he goes to this region or this kingdom that is protected by all kind of mystical arrangements. It's explained that was, all these different elements like wind, fire, water, all these things, all these different elements were created, creating all kinds of barriers that will protect that even to enter into the kingdom fortress of this Narakasura was impossible. So, imagine having a tornado, a whirlwind tornado, just, of wind protecting, going around like this, around this region where the kingdom of this demon was. And then a wall of water, mountains, all these different elements that you have to break all those mystical protections. And Krishna, like nothing. We heard yesterday, the day before, that he destroyed all that with his weapons. And then this demon was protected, Narakasura was protected by this incredibly powerful five-headed demon called Mura, who was this monster that was that lived under the water of the mud that surrounds the fortress of this demon Narakasura. And we're gonna hear how Krishna dispatched him too. With his Sudarshan chakra, he cuts all his heads. It is explained that Krishna became famous because of that too. He's called Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon. And eventually he will kill Narakasura, and it's also explained that one of the reasons he brought Satyabhama is because Satyabhama, Satyabhama's expansion is Mother Earth, Bhumi, who is the mother of Narakasura. And she had received the boon from Lord Vishnu that her son, Naraka, will have a long, long life, which he had. I mean, remember that the pastimes of Lord Varaha were many, many, many yugas behind, before the appearance of Lord Krishna in this particular yuga, this particular cycle of yugas. So he's been for a long time. The narrations of Ramayan and the narrations of Mahabharata, they quote about this fellow Naraka. And another promise was that he won't be able to be killed unless Bhumi will give permission. So Satyabhama, Krishna, you know, once she gave the permission, and she was there because they were there to chastise and punish this demon. So extraordinary pastimes of the Lord we see, in which the full display of his opulence and potencies are there. And one may say, after this display of opulence, who is going not who cannot or who will not surrender to the Lord? But the fact is that still uh, people were not able to recognize him. So that's part of the great mystery of Krishna's pastimes and the great mystery also of Krishna's bewildering Maya potency. So, something to think about it. Any comments or questions? Yes, Cynthia. Can you get the microphone? Uh, Adam, there should be a microphone in there. No? Uh, Turn it on and see. No battery. Okay. Yeah, it's just about to run a battery.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. I have just to ask to clarify in my head. So, what is the difference between avatar and expansion and incarnation?
Yeah, the avatar have to do with um, the material world. Is when the Lord descends into this material world. So it's related just to the material world. And the, even the use of incarnation, which in Latin means that you take a flesh, you enter into flesh, is is just to make the point that you're entering into this world, but it's not an accurate term, incarnation, because we know that the Lord doesn't take a material body or doesn't enter into flesh. But the term, what it refers is the descent of the Lord into the material world. Now, when we talk about amsas and kalas and all these different expansions and expansion of expansions of the Lord, these are transcendental. These are manifestations of the Lord in the spiritual world, and is manifested in order to um, fulfill particular purposes. So, and one of those purposes is the creation of the material world. One of those purposes, but it have to do with the tremendous existence of diversity that is there in the creation, the spiritual creation, which have unlimited living entities that have unlimited type of relationships with the Lord. So according to those relationships, the Lord has a particular manifestation that uh, that fulfills, that relationship with the living entity. So, but those are the expansions and the expansions of the expansions. Those are all manifestations in the spiritual world. Now, when those expansions, for a particular purpose of, well, for the purpose of establishing the principles of religion and connecting with the devotees and benefiting the devotees and annihilating the miscreants, then the Lord descends into this material world. And those different expansions, um, they may enter into the material world. Like, there's a kingdom of Lord Ramachandra in the spiritual world. So that's an eternal manifestation of Lord Krishna in the spiritual world. So when Lord Ramachandra that enters into this material world, that's the avatar. That's a Ram avatar. So it's more specifying the act of the personality of Godhead in any type of manifestation, Vishnu Tattva, when it comes into the material world to perform a particular pastime. and that's the avatar. So that's the difference. Anything else? Krishna Archana Bhaktaram. Good. No, no. You haven't? Because I have to go to a kitchen too. I have to go to a kitchen too in that sense. So, you okay? Okay. Shriman Bhagavatam ki jai. Sri Ram Nami ki jai.